Okay, let's get a quick assessment. I know Jason said 70% of you. Who's an entrepreneur in the room? Raise your hand. Great. Who's an investor? Who's other? Who do I not? Great, you're welcome here too. So last night, Rob and I hosted a dinner for 20 AI entrepreneurs, and invariably, we had an awesome discussion about where AI was going in technology, but every single founder at some point said, I'm struggling with getting a customer to front load and pay me on a contract. I'm struggling with these crazy objections, people that don't get what I'm doing are giving me, and they're saying there's no market. I know there is. So if that's you as an entrepreneur, I really want to speak to you. If you're an investor, what I'm saying is going to resonate. And if you're in the other category, I think you're going to enjoy understanding through the lens of what AI entrepreneurs are seeing today in the market. So, as Rob said, we've made several investments here. We've made 56 investments. Rob said 53. We actually have 3 more out, and we have 1 term sheet there. So we're really active, 56 investments in less than 4 years. So for those of you that don't know, that's pretty active. In the first fund, we were writing 75K checks. In this fund, we're doing 250K. And this is our portfolio. So 85% AI. Rob and I both exited B2B SaaS companies. So naturally, we had to do some of those investments, and 3% weird because we want to learn new things. And invariably, people still email me, I would say once every 2 weeks, and they've researched me, which is key, by the way, and they've said, hey, I'm weird. And I know exactly what they mean. I know what they're targeting me for, but you need to be really, really exceptional. So if you think about the superpowers of what Rob and I have put together, Rob is to AI what I am to go to market. And I don't just build companies in the past, like I still study it. So Vic from DataQuest, who you're going to hear talk later today, I've hired 2 data scientists, and I've been studying these things on my own and go to marketing. So when you look at, like, I've indexed the top 300 SaaS companies, and I've captured every email they sent for 3 years. I know the model of what they say. I know the sentence case, the uppercase, the emoji, how many words, how many paragraphs. I study this because this stuff matters. If you're in B2B, and most of you are, you're going to need to learn it. So I've been studying that. I did the same thing in 2016 with the presidential elections. Literally, if you want to know, Rubio's hit send a lot. Bernie hit send a total lot. But I started learning, like, what are the mechanics that we need to understand, and I've applied that to more and more things now. So let's get a quick sense of where we all believe the market is today. There's a recent New York Times article that had these 3 quotes, and I literally need you to raise your hand if you agree. One of the quotes in the article says this: all the benefits of having a human expert on your staff, but it never takes a lunch hour or goes on vacation. Raise your hand if you believe this is how someone could describe a solution today. Okay, a couple of people. What about this? What's going to delay AI is there isn't enough infrastructure for developing applied work. Do people say this about AI today? I would argue they really say this more than you think. And then finally, what does academia say? Do they just say it's hype? Because a lot of people in this says academic researchers consider products coming out on the market unsophisticated or oversold. Raise your hand if you agree. If you've been close to academia, you know that's true. Here's the interesting part. This article was written almost 40 years ago. I kid you not, here it is. Commercializing artificial intelligence, right next to you should vacation in Kuwait advertisement. I'm not kidding, that's what it is. So if that's where some of the objections that have been a legacy for 40 years are still hanging around, we have to get to the fundamentals to get investors and customers to understand what we're doing. So, just in case you feel bad, Rob fell for the same thing. I texted him literally these 3. Here's our text thread. I said, hey, by the way, do you think these are true? And he said, oh, those are all true. Yeah, well, they were true 37 years ago. So, here are the 5 keys I want to talk about. 1, message matching. Literally the tactical element of understanding how to position your value prop to an investor or a company. Number 2, how to handle a sales objection, pitch objections, asking for action, and finally, following up. Now, message matching. This is Josh Lessing, one of our entrepreneurs we've backed. He's great at getting PR, but he's better at building a robot that knows when and how to pick a tomato better than a human. Here is seeing through the lens of his camera on his robot. And he can pick with computer vision, when is it ripe? He's gone full cycle, grabbed the tomato, gone through inspection, packaging, grocery store, humans consumed it. And later, BioBot has analyzed it. You'll learn from Mariana later. So the interesting part is when he went to get first proof of concept in the market, he did not go to somebody like this And I'm seeing our own entrepreneurs and others when they come to me to say, oh, I've already got a proof of concept, or worse, I can't get somebody to let me validate. Stay in friendly waters. These people, the gap is too big for many, many people. Like Jason said, some people think they're going to kill us. The robots are going to get us. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. But here's the exercise. I'll show you what I mean. This gentleman needs to catch a ride to Jacksonville, Florida. He has a pen and he has a sign. He could write this to Jacksonville, right? He could write another thing to Moms for Christmas, and then he could go weird and write the coordinates. Now, you could giggle a little bit because that's kind of the sales and marketing, and you know who does that sign right there. So here's the catch, guys. One size does not fit all. So we've been coaching our entrepreneurs to say, when you're pitching an investor who's not done AI, we're not going to go hardcore into the neural network discussion. They're not going to get it. They're not going to write you a check. Now, a lot of them will, and you'll see as we go through this presentation, there's several other pieces that are traps, I would describe. They're traps by investors or people that don't get it, and you need to avoid them. Next, sales objections. Man, I would love to talk about this all day, and I'm going to spare the entrepreneur. To be clear, what is a friend, not a portfolio company, but he pitched through my introduction of a large healthcare company, this CEO, and gave him a demo. And after the demo, the CEO said this. Right? You want to talk about groaning. It was a bad moment. But what is actually true is the entrepreneur had not done a great job explaining, because when you're early stage, you're casting a wider net to say, I could solve this problem, I could solve this problem, I could solve 42 problems, and wherever the money leads me, I shall go, right? But when you're talking to somebody who's distant from AI, like this CEO, you have to do something different. And I was on that call, and it was eerily similar. Some of you are old enough in this room to remember when people were really objecting to the cloud, and they would never leave on premise. And it was eerily similar to that kind of discussion. That's the ones you're going to be facing today. You're going to be having that conversation where people are going to say, I don't know how the hell you're going to get me there. I'm scared. That makes no sense to me. So you've got to work on the transition. These are the three objections outside of the bots killing us. Is number one, everybody wants to know about jobs. Number two, everybody wants to know about what are we doing with our data. But number three, we coach our entrepreneurs to say, watch out for how it works. Specifically on a customer level. When a customer asks you that, that is a trap. It looks and smells like I want to get into the details of my neural network and write down the coordinates of how to get to Jacksonville. It's not. It's 9 times out of 10. What's in this for me? How is this going to work in my business? So what we coach our entrepreneurs to do is say, get down to the functional level of here's the benefits for you. But too many of us are talking about the fun, geeky stuff. We've got to get to the part about how it works for the customer. And here's what I teach them. Use the feel, felt, found method. And this is a psychology method that says this. I understand how you feel. So don't worry, you're not alone. Others have felt this way before. But here's what they found. So this is what the entrepreneur who got smacked in the face with, are these claims true, should have said. Mark, CEO's name, I understand how you feel. Nancy felt the same way too. She runs another healthcare organization. I usually fall on the sword here and say, I'm so sorry, I clearly need to get my pitch a little better. However, Nancy trusted me, and she did this proof of concept, and 90 days later, positive outcome. Feel, felt, found entrepreneurs, you need to use it with investors. They will like it, and essentially humans like it, but so do customers. Now, pitch objections. I can show you this guy's name because he's told me I can. So this is Matt's slide where he talks about what he's going to do, right? Actually, this is the slide where he emailed his co-founders and said, look, Todd ripped me to shreds, but now we have a great pitch deck, and Matt's getting a lot of traction and raise. So I know you can't read the details yet, and I'll zoom in a second. But Matt's first slide said, we're doing medical device documentation for the 21st century. And I said, Matt, who in the hell wants documentation outside of compliance? No one. That's not a positive word. And how do we describe innovation with 21st century? So here's what Matt came up with instead. I said, let's show contrast. Get rid of this jargon you all are using in your decks. Get rid of the jargon and show me contrast of how you're going to transition us from the old way to the new way. So he literally found, that is images from a real surgery, and on the right is his solution, where he's showing you on an iPad how a surgeon and with his model can identify when they make mistakes in real time while they're in the surgery, or what he would call post-game surgery with game film evaluating it. So if you add contrast, you'll have a lot of luck. Next, I see so many decks full of words, and I'd ask that you start showing visuals. I haven't received a chart in 5 years that ever goes down, except for churn. But Matt did a great chart here, and I've had to redact a few things, but you'll get the idea. This is the perfect traction slide I've ever seen, really, because he's got this up and to the right, which is great. 5 of the 8 quarters that he's designed here are actual what he's truly done, not forecast. Everybody can, as an investor, we all know you're going to forecast up and to the right. But what he did was said, Matt, show them how you did it. And on the bottom is his product roadmap. So the milestones of what he did to gain traction, because the goal for him was people are paying me, and not just paying me, they're using the product. So finally, a lot of slides, a lot of decks that we get say things like I was employee number 42 of a startup you've never heard of, or my cousin did a great research paper and I've been under his tutelage. And so what I want you to avoid here is get to simply the best thing. You can do affiliation with logos, but I'd love to see you do more and more and more of like, what is your expertise? And so Matt did a bang up job here where he talked about, I am a medical device product expert. And I think that's the key for you when you get to your slides. The less is more, keep just the best. Finally, let's tell another story about asking for action. This is an entrepreneur who's going to remain nameless. And they had a sales barrier. But Rob and I did not know this. We liked the founder. We liked the product. We liked the market. They were not getting any paying customers, but it's early, pre-revenue, we knew it. We introduced them to a very active angel. The next day, he called and said, good news, bad news. And I always suggest you make them say the bad news, because he didn't tell us. And he said, good news, I like the market, I like the founder, I think this team could do it. What's the bad news? I gave them every buying signal imaginable, and they did not ask me for a check. And this company will fail, because if I give them those buying signals and they don't ask me for a check, they won't ask the right customers for a check, they won't hire the right people. 9 months later, this company shut down. And it was a shock to Rod. This was one of the earliest investments we made, and I still think the founder's great, but this person had a psychology barrier. So here's the easiest way for those of you that aren't really skilled at sales. If you're not good at sales, here's the softest, sweetest, nicest question you can ask. Do you see any reason we can't move forward today? And here's what happens. They're going to say no. And you're going to go, great, here's the term sheet. Great, here's my wiring, right, instructions. Here's a contract, give me your credit card. And I promise you, all the objections they have will come barreling out of their mouth. They'll just say, no, we need to do more diligence. So the goal when you're trying to convert, especially an investor, is get them finally to commit. And by doing that, you've got to find the objections. Finally, you've got to do follow-up. I think you're going to like this story for entrepreneurs who are persistent. When I was getting out of grad school, I targeted this gentleman right here, Steve, who is a CEO of a billion-dollar healthcare company. And I wanted to work for him. And I got an introduction. And he kindly never responded. And I called him, and he did not respond. And I sent him a note, and he did not respond. And so I continued this cadence for 43 days. And then I got a call. You're going to have an interview with Steve at 7 a.m. on Thursday. You only get 10 minutes. 10 minutes became 90. 90 became a job. Job became a department. Department became a division. I am a ridiculously unqualified person running a division for this company. And he was a kind enough mentor to say, you are not wired for this. If you don't go build or buy your own business, you're going to be miserable. And he actually said, slow like me. So follow-up does matter. And it matters for entrepreneurs too. We are getting ready to announce a few more investments. As Rob said, we have a term sheet out. You know who you are. You're in the room. But we have one more spot that we're about to announce in a few weeks, and he's that spot in red, where this entrepreneur pitched us 1,201 days ago. And we said no. And he gracefully followed up. We were abreast of what he was doing. He kept us in the loop. And now we're paying more to own less of his company, but he has de-risked this thing. And I tell you, for those of you that are raising or want to raise, the follow-up matters. It does need to be done gracefully. Now, these are the keys that we're teaching our entrepreneurs about how to overcome objections, but I'll leave you with this. On the left-hand side, you have arguably the worst buying experience we could all have, whether you believe cars are going away or not. Buying a car sucks. And you know it sucks because the stock photography had to hire actors to smile during the process. Now, on the other side, you've got one of my favorite things. I'd love to get a new machine. That's an enjoyable, easy e-com experience, right? But here's the catch. What I'm talking about today is not selling. It's really not. It's about human psychology and how people make decisions. And here I will tell you the reason why is nobody likes to be sold, but everybody likes to buy. And you need to make sure your message and your target align so it's easier to buy AI. Now, if we get killed later, it's all our fault, but I don't believe that's going to be true either. So if you're interested in getting the slides, you can go to halfcourt.vc.
Thanks, Todd.